Hey guys, it's your girl Chef Sahira here, and in this video, I'm going to discuss with you things that you need to know before you prepare to bake. So, if you're new to baking, this is going to be helpful. For those who are already experienced in baking, hey, it might be a refresher course, but for those who are looking to delve into the baking world, I teach all my clients the basics of baking first. So, as we know, baking is a science. So I feel like I think it's important to understand the fundamentals of baking before you're ready to make that cake or cookies. And, I find people want to just dive into, I want to start decorating cakes. But if the cake isn't good, then who cares if the decorations, right? So you pay a lot for the decorations, but if the cake isn't good, so I'm here to give all the education about baking. So before you get started, and this is just the first thing that we've learned in baking. This was one of the first things I went over in culinary school because it is so foundational. So the one thing you need to know before you start baking, you want to make sure that you have everything in its place, and that is mise en place. Mise en place is a French culinary phrase that means everything in its place, and it refers to the preparation of all food and equipment required before cooking, baking, and is used in professional kitchens. So it's just something that you do, and that again, that means everything in its place. Means if you're measuring your ingredients, if your dairy products like your butter and eggs need to be at room temperature, put it at temperature. If you need to cut up some onions, grate some carrots, cut up some apples, all of that stuff needs to be done before you cut that stove on and say, I'm ready to bake. So just really is just being prepared. It's preparation. In culinary school, what we did was if we tackled two recipes, day one, we got all the ingredients. We measured out all of our ingredients before we started baking. So what I teach my students, we get all our ingredients, we prepare first, and then day two we bake. Very rarely do I do everything in one day. So, again, in this video, it's just the basics. So I'm just going to go over some of the basic tools that you need as a baker. When you start um, having like a niche, like I just want to decorate cakes or decorate cookies, or you're just making bread, it requires different tools, supplies slash equipment. But if you just starting and you want to get into the baking world, I think these tools that I discussed today will kind of give you some insight and allow you to get started right away. And you can make cookies, you can make cakes with these basic tools. So just keep in mind, yes, you can add to it. There are so many tools out there, but these are just like the essential tools. So, the first tool that we'll discuss is the kitchen scale. So, the kitchen scale is a must-have. That's why it is number one. Any training that I give, professional chefs use scales. We use scales because scales measure weight, and it's a more accurate way of measuring items. It allows you to increase and decrease your recipes. It allows you to portion stuff off. I know a lot of people may use measuring cups, which is good. It's definitely one of the things on the list, but kitchen scales, it's just more accurate. And because baking is a science, we want to be as accurate as possible so we can continue to get the same results using the same recipe. So you don't want on Monday the cookies to be good, and because you didn't use that kitchen scale, you might slightly get different results. So, kitchen scale is a number one. It's not optional. Um, Professional chefs, bakers, they have their recipes in what we call weight. If you see recipes that says like 1100 grams, that's weight. If you see a recipe that says 2 cups, that recipe is in volume. And just as a side note, if you ever want to sell your baking goods, and you want to price them correctly, you need to convert your recipes and volume to weight to be to cost your items properly, because at the end of the day you want to make a profit. So you definitely need a kitchen scale. So of course, this is just goes without saying. You need a stand mixer or a hand mixer. If you're just starting out, I highly recommend a hand mixer to get you more comfortable when you start getting used to what baking is. I will definitely advise that you work your way up to a stand mixer, especially if you are looking to make larger batches of whatever it is that you're making. So if you want 4 dozen of cookies, I definitely recommend a stand mixer. And the stand mixer is good if you're gonna start mixing stuff like egg whites, because you can do it by hand and you can do it with the hand mixer, but it takes longer to whip egg whites into a meringue. So I definitely recommend a hand mixer if you're just starting out, and work your way up to a stand mixer. So our next tool would be our whisk. Whisk, you can whisk egg whites, right, into a meringue. So we use a whisk because it incorporates air into our batters, into our egg whites, into our whipped creams. So whisk is absolutely a must. Is a must. And I'm always surprised when I go places and people don't have a whisk, right? Because it's not something that they're thinking of. So if I go someplace or a friend's house, a family's house, and I know I'm gonna bake or want to throw something together, either I'll come with my own tools or I'll buy it out there and just leave it for them, because I really believe everybody needs a whisk. And I find that it allows your batters, or not, I would say, like if I'm making a gravy, it smooths out the gravies. If I'm making, I know for me, I use it if I'm making grits. A whisk is great to smooth out your gravy, your grits, your custards. A whisk is great to smooth out a custard. Um, I make a cheese sauce for my macaroni and cheese. A whisk is not just for bacon. I guess that's what my point is. So we come to measuring cups. Again, measuring cups measures your ingredients in volume. So you will see recipes that calls for 1 cup of this, 1 cup of sugar, 2 cups of flour. You can use it. I don't. I do have recipes that I use a cup, which you would say recipes that are in volume. However, it's for basic recipes. The recipes that I make big batches of are always in weight, and I use a kitchen scale. So I start my clients off with using measuring cups, um, just to kind of get them acclimated to the baking world. But I would say ultimately you need a kitchen scale. Measuring cups, when I say volume, what you can measure in a measuring cup is maybe like a cup of rice, a cup of chopped nuts, or something like that. So just keep that in mind. And this is a measuring cup. This is what we call a liquid measuring cup. I highly recommend it. For me, it's just not optional. You need a liquid measuring cup because it measures um, fluid ounces. Measuring cups measures fluid ounces. So, of course, you're just going to put your liquid in there. I grew up measuring dry ingredients. I grew up measuring dry ingredients in a liquid measuring cup. That's what we had. That's what I used. So I didn't know any better. So you don't know what you don't know. So you definitely would need measuring cups as well as liquid measuring cups. Measuring spoons, that's a given. Um, that's self-explanatory. It just goes without saying. You definitely are going to need some measuring spoons. And again, these are just the basic essentials. Baking tools, baking tools that I feel like if you are new to baking or just as a baker, you can create so much with just these basic tools. In culinary school, they give you a kit, and these are the things that are in the kit. For the most part, these are the tools that are in the kit. So rubber spatula. Anytime I thought of a spatula, I thought of spatulas as flipping pancakes. That's the only spatula I knew growing up. Now I can't even imagine a world without my rubber spatula. I would just say when you are looking to buy a rubber spatula, just to make sure that it is heat resistant. So as you are making custard, stirring hot liquids, you just don't want your spatula to melt. So rubber spatula a must. Is a must. It allows you to scrape the batter. It allows you to fold your mixtures. Especially like if you're folding in some egg whites into something, you don't want to. You don't want to have the air collapse, if that makes sense, right? So you sometimes you need to be gentle with more batters. Sometimes you don't want to overmix something. So a spatula basically is how we mix our batters for the most part. Now this is an offset spatula. You see the design on it. It is definitely at an angle. Offset spatulas are great for evening out your batters. It's great for if you put a batter like in a sheet pan. It allows you to even out that batter. It allows you to ice a cake. Believe me when I tell you, if you don't have a offset spatula, you are not going to get smooth, uh, a smooth icing on your cake. So offset spatulas, they come in different sizes. They also come without the angle, so they're just straight. But you still need a offset spatula is great for icing cakes. It's great for smoothing out batters in a pan. In a pan. Yeah, so that's it. Again, it's not optional. So here we have cake pans. That's a given if you want to make cakes, right? So you, of course, you need to put it in something. So there's so many different sizes of cake pans. From you can get a 4-inch cake pan to I mean, the largest cake pan I have is a 14-inch. I believe I have a 14-inch cake pan. But what I will say is, if you're typically going to make a cake, maybe like a anywhere from a 7 to 9 inch cake, I recommend that you have a set of each. So I only make 3 layer cakes. So I have a set of 7-inch cake pans, and a set looks like having 3 7-inch cake pans. I have multiple sets, but you definitely want to have a set. You don't want to bake one and let the batter sit and bake the other one. So, and that actually helps with you having even layers as well. So, you definitely want to have a set. If you just want to do 2 layer cakes, then get 2 pans of that set. If it's 7-inch, 8-inch, 9-inch, whatever it is. So, those are your round cake pans. Of course, you have square cake pans, you have rectangular cake pans. So, rectangle, right? I guess. So you get it, right? So of course, also if you're gonna make cupcakes, you can have a cupcake pan. I recommend having a cupcake pan that holds at least um 12. I have a cupcake pan that holds 24, and I'll show you that. But it looks like a muffin pan. So, depending, I make jumbo muffins. You can have a muffin pan if you plan on making muffins. I do like a muffin pan. So cupcake pan slash muffin pans, you can make a muffin in a cupcake pan. But what I suggest, if you get a good one, I suggest if you can get two, because a lot of times your recipe will give you more batter than 12 cupcakes, let's say. So you don't want that batter to sit. So I do like 12, at least minimum, right? They should come in 12. So here's a look at a 24 cavity cupcake pan. This is actually a professional pan. I really, really do like it because it really makes the muffins come out really, really good. And any of these tools that I am going over, You can find at my website, sweetnesssociety.com. Well, Sweetness Society Store. Let me say that. Sweetnesssocietystore.com. I will put a link in the description. But again, you can also just read the blog that I have on my site, because you before we even get started, this is day one of the training that I give my clients. I've taught this basic training in the college out here in Staten Island, CSI. And, this is for people who have no knowledge to people who have all the knowledge. I start with the basics because I'm never going to just jump into, let's just bake this red velvet cake without having any understanding. So I teach in steps so you can work your way up to the advanced stage. So at some point, you'll learn how to make macaroons. You'll learn how to make croissants, but you have to get the fundamentals first. So those are your cupcake pans. A bundt pan, if you, it's just a different kind of pan. You have cheesecake pans. I do like a bundt pan, a good quality bundt pan. Nordic uh, is a good brand, a Nordic cake pan. Um, So when you work with bundt pans, just know this is something that has to be sprayed and floured, unless you have a good pan, right? I know they have the spray now that has the flour in it. So, but I do like a good bundt pan, and sometimes it's hard getting a good uh, recipe for a bundt pan. I do like pound cakes, so sometimes it's not as easy to find a good pound cake recipe. But a bundt pan, if you feel like you're going to be baking a whole lot and want to test things out. So that's just a different kind of cake pan. And again, you have a cheesecake pan. Cheesecake pans, what you call springform pans. The bottom comes out. I don't have that here, but if you want a springform pan, they come in different sizes and shapes as well. So here we have sheet pans. Sheet pans are used to bake everything from cookies to any kind of pastries, croissants, turnovers, danishes. Um, uh, French macaroons are the little round things, but if you did like coconut macaroons, you can put that on there. We use sheet pans. You can make a sheet cake with a sheet pan. You can, if you have two, I definitely recommend two pans. Um, but I use them for everything. It's a staple in the industry. You're never going to go to a restaurant in the kitchen and not find a sheet pan. They're really inexpensive, and it's really just a staple to have. Ice cream scoopers are your friend. So we use these to scoop out our cookie doughs and also to scoop our batter. You can get first of all, they come in so many different sizes, but I do like the ice cream scoopers that have the levers, so it's an easy release. And I have a set that has three or four different sizes, and I use them for different things. I have an ice cream scoop for my cake pops, because you need that to be smaller. I make mini cookies, so I use my smaller ice cream scoop for my cookies. But if you're making muffins, I have a larger ice cream scooper just to scoop my muffins, the jumbo muffins. And it allows everything to be nice and uniform. You can use it depending on the size you have to, of course, for ice cream, but to make meatballs, to shape meatballs. So it's just really a tool that I don't I don't even know what I would do without it. Trying to scoop batter into your cupcake pan is, it's kind of impossible. Impossible. And this allows everything to be even in uniform. So that's what we're going with. You want your cookies to be the same size. You want your muffins to all be the same size. So if you have an ice cream scoop, that is your friend. So here we have a sifter, or sieve, uh, sieve. But so the what is shown here is a sifter. A sieve you'll find more in like a restaurant. It's more rounded. So you can definitely use a sifter, and this allows you to It kind of aerates your flour. Um, it's not to replace. I know people who think if I sift my flour enough, I'll have cake flour. That's not a thing, right? So this allows you to really just kind of make sure you don't have any lumps, any foreign products in your in foreign objects in your dry ingredients. It takes out the lumps. Powdered sugar. If you use a sifter for your powdered sugar and use your powdered sugar for your icing, it makes your icing really nice and light. It allows me to sift my cocoa powder, sometimes has lumps in it. So a sifter is your friend. And I will say, I don't sift all my baked goods, but I will sift when I'm making a cake that has a butter base. If I'm using oil in a cake, like a red velvet cake, I mean, the cake is going to be moist anyway, so I don't typically sift. Um, but if I'm making a yellow cake, for instance, or a sponge cake, something that I know needs to be light and airy, I definitely use the sifter. And last but not least, we have our parchment paper. Here I have it as a bonus. And the bonus is like it's really not a tool, but it's a must have. I don't believe that you can be a baker without having parchment paper in your kitchen. You just need it. It lines our sheet pans, but it also can line your cake pans, your round and square cake pans. It can you can use it to line your uh spring form pans. I see now that they sell these pans that also they sell the cutout circles of parchment paper. When you could just cut them out yourself. You could just cut them out yourself. Parchment paper is very versatile. I use it for any and everything. And if you were peeling potatoes, peeling carrots, apples, whatever it is, if you do it over parchment paper, it becomes like your instant grab and go and toss it in a garbage can, right? Once you're done, as opposed to having a bowl that you gotta rinse out. This makes everything easy to clean up. And I will say, you line your pans if you want to bake cookies. It doesn't mean you don't have to wash your pan, right? So the grease is still gonna, you will see some signs of the grease on your pan. So just wash your pan. I feel like I shouldn't have to say that, but I do have to say that. So, but that is it. So that is pretty much the essential tools that you need to get started. And as you see more videos on this channel, you will definitely um be able to follow along more easily, because the more you learn, you'll have all your tools. And if you need more tools, trust me, I will tell you the tools that you need. But to get started, as I start uploading videos and recipes, you'll have everything you need. And again, I'll put a link to my website. So if you are interested in some of these supplies, you can get them. But also, know that there's other tools out here. Things that I didn't put on here, mixing bowls. If you need mixing bowls, I definitely suggest you have um, uh, different sizes of metal or glass measuring bowls. Not measuring bowls, mixing bowls. I'm trying to think what else would you need. You can have like a you can have like a depending on what you're going to do. So bowls is good. I mean, I guess you can stick that in as bonus number two, measuring mixing bowls. Um but yeah, I think that is it. So if you enjoyed this video, leave me a comment. If you enjoyed it, you can like, you can subscribe to this channel, or, you know, tell me what else you would like to see. But I will tell you that you will see other videos that are building on your baking knowledge. So now we have gone into the tools. The next video I'll probably drop is the understanding of the ingredients, the basic ingredients that we use all the time, the more commonly used ingredients. Like what about flour? I grew up not knowing the difference between bread flour and regular flour. So we'll talk about the ingredients more in detail. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.